What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I'm your host, Numac, coming to you after a Green Bay Packers 16-10 win over the Indianapolis Colts at Lambeau Field. Malik Willis shines in his debut, as well as a big game from Josh Jacobs. And to break it all down with me is my lovely co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. I am glad that we're talking about a win that I was frankly just didn't see coming at
You said
all.
that on Thursday.
I did. My prediction was terrible. It turns out it's better to make predictions when you know what's going to happen.
that is
Um,
that is factual.
yeah, that is factual. But I'm glad that we're sitting here talking about the first Packers win of the 2024 season.
It's a good one. It's a good time to be raising those W flags. I'm happy
Let's
about it
do
for
it.
sure because 0-2 after 2 weeks would have been a some tough sledding for sure. But yeah, 16-10 Packers in a game where they didn't have Jordan Love. Obviously, they instead ride with Malik Willis. He says post game that he didn't know he was starting until yesterday. I think that's a lie, frankly. But
He was executing the game plan down to the post-game comments. You
that's
know what I
right.
mean?
He saw how fans and everybody else treated Jordan Mason after Christian McCaffrey was not planned to start on Monday night as early as Friday afternoon, and he said, "I want none of that. Let's just keep it simple." So, re- excuse me. Regardless, let's start with the star of the day. Josh Jacobs, 32 carries, 151 yards, no touchdowns, but should have had one that was unfortunately negated by a penalty. I believe it was
Two.
I missed the
Because the
second
other
one.
one was the fumble.
Oh yeah, the other one was the fumble, but should have had two touchdowns today. The first one was negated by I believe a Rasheed Walker hold, um, that negated I think like what 25-yard run or something like that. It was pretty decent it was a pretty
It
decent
was a
run.
break. Yeah, it was a breakout run for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Um, like I said, 151 yards. I can't remember the last time we saw a Packers running back get 30 carries, and it was just awesome to watch. So I guess what to start, what was your take on Josh Jacobs' game today?
Um, I mean, obviously marvelous. It's stupendous, magnificent. Outside of the fumbling gaff and not getting a touchdown because he was certainly worthy of celebrating and getting a Lambeau leap in his first Packers game at home. But again, I think he typified what would have been everybody's ideal scenario of how to go into this game without Jordan Love. And it's not like he wasn't, I mean, Josh Jacobs has a lot of tread on the tires. Um, and certainly a very high usage running back dating back to be with the Raiders and playing for different coaches, playing with different quarterbacks. So like this scenario is not brand new to him. You know what I mean? Like I think that's where it was very good to lean on someone like him who, yeah, the first half of last week was not great, but by the end of it, we're like, okay, we saw like what Josh Jacobs could do. That it was like flipped. Like the first half of him just running rampant on a Colts run D, like that team is gonna have some serious problems if they cannot stop the run game. And it's weird because I think they've been in this kind of middle zone, especially with the since the sudden retirement of Andrew Luck.
Mm-hmm.
But they've always kind of competed very hard, and they've made these good trades for like a DeForest Buckner or drafted well or anything like that. But last week they got I think it was 219 or 213 rushing yards. Today they gave up 263 rushing yards. Josh Jacobs hit 100 yards midway through the second quarter. I got a stat right here. Um, the Packers ran for 164 rushing yards in the first quarter alone, the highest first quarter total for any NFL team since the Denver Broncos had 167 in the opening quarter of a loss to the Patriots in 2011.
Holy
By
moly.
halftime, the Packers had 237 rushing yards at 34 carries.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So they already in the first half. They eclipsed what the Colts gave up all game last week. So like, yeah, that's why like I think as we'll get into and talk more about this game, I think this game could have it was 16-10. So
Yeah.
you just feel like it kind of nail bite or a lot of I mean
It
there were a
got
lot of
it
missed
got really it
opportunities.
got way too close for comfort at the end.
Yes, for sure.
I believe it was Steve Cesarbian or something. I forget. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Um, I'm not sure if I might not be able to find it either. But he said something along the lines of that was a 23-3 win in a 16-10 sweatshirt or something like that.
That is what I was going to say is I think that could have been a lot more dominant like
Yeah.
victory,
Mm-hmm.
box score line, whatever you want to call it, final score,
Yeah.
than 16-10.
Yeah.
Like this the Packers had the ball for 40 minutes.
That's crazy.
Two-thirds of the game.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. So I think going back to Josh Jacobs, when the task at hand was, hey, we don't care how great it looks. Like it looked really great today, but there's definitely a scenario where the Packers are playing might happen even next week. That the Packers are, fighting for every yard that they're gonna get. And you're just trying to escape Lambeau with a win or escape Tennessee with a win next week or so on and so forth. But Josh Jacobs, this guy is it, we knew what he was capable of, and we knew that like, yeah, can we get NFL rushing leader Josh Jacobs, or can you get a happy medium of you won't have to dial it up because you have Jordan Love, you have all these talented wide receivers that he's a complementary focus within this offense. But now with dire circumstances at play with no Jordan Love,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs can just step up and be, yeah, give me the ball 32 times. I'll make of what I can.
Right.
And it was pretty impressive.
It was really impressive. I can't remember the last time. Again, I said up top that a Packers rusher had 30 carries in a game. Like we haven't seen that from like Aaron Jones, and I don't think possibly ever. I'll try and look at that on the side, but I mean,
It
this
might
is
be even like maybe Ryan Grant way back when, or like
maybe.
Amon Green
I
more
think
more likely.
that's gonna be probably the answer is Amon Green. But I mean, you think about that. Like, how long have we longed for a running game like this, Jordan? Like, I know that um that what was I gonna say? I blanked. I know that's not always necessary. Oh, and that this Colts defense was pretty bad against the run, obviously, but
Yes.
this is the kind of runner that we've been looking to pair with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers for years, right? Not that Aaron Jones
Yeah.
wasn't that, but this is just a bell cow that can go get you a few yards when you need it to. Ever since he shook the rust off after the first half against the Eagles, he's just looked so much better, and and thankfully so because we needed him to look really good this week, and he goes and does. Misses end up, and
Most carries Aaron Jones had a game was 25.
that's what I'm seeing too. I'm looking
Yeah.
up Amon Green now in a second, but it'll probably be somewhere along there, probably more. But regardless, like it's just gutsy running from Josh Jacobs in a time when he had to do it. Amon Green's most was 33 against
There you go.
the Panthers in 2004. So little fun facts. Regardless, shout out Josh Jacobs because he did so well today. I don't know what this game looks like without that running rushing attack in the first half. Because once the half switched over and they go in the second half, the Colts were selling out for the run. Like the game
Yeah.
plan was out. They were doing everything they could to stop Josh Jacobs from having his way on the ground. And that's not that it's a bad thing, but I think that game though the game really took a shift when what was it 10-0 going into halftime. And so
Yes.
the Packers needed to score more. 10 points wasn't really going to be enough. They ended up scoring 16, and it ends up working out. But I do you know how many yards Josh Jacobs had at the half? Do you have that number?
Let me look.
because
128.
so he has 128 yards
So
in the
23 in
first.
the second half.
Yeah, like they just full sold out and stopping the run um, in the second half and made Malik Willis throw the ball a little more. He ends up 12 of 14, 122 yards and a touchdown. But I think without the defense and without we'll talk about the defense later, talk about Malik Willis in a little bit, but without the momentum that Josh Jacobs had in the first half and really just wearing down this defense early, they kind of got some of those returns late. It wasn't a whole lot, but between um, Josh Jacobs, Malik Willis, Marshawn Lloyd, and Emmanuel Wilson, each of them had fairly decent days. Emmanuel Wilson only had 9 yards, but Marshawn Lloyd has 15 yards, and then Malik Willis on design runs had 41 yards rushing today. Like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a wrinkle the Packers have had in their playbook with Rodgers or Love until they had Malik Willis, and shout out Matt LaFleur for coaching a hell of a game today. Like I think that's as big of a topic to discuss as Josh Jacobs' game was because he called a perfect game in my opinion. There was times where I was upset that they didn't do what I wanted. I wasn't particularly a fan of three A gap runs to end the game and punt it away for Daniel Whalen, um, and things like that. But I also wasn't a fan of not going a little bit higher pace with Malik Willis at the end of the first half to try and get a couple points and steal some at the end of the first half, as they don't run a 2 minute drill. But he said post game that he's just Malik Willis wasn't there yet to be running a 2 minute drill, and so they just went for it and took it into the half. Which like I can't argue about the reasoning. He's only been here 3 weeks, and so or 4 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's his first start, and I think what a year and a half or so. Like it's just been. I forget if he
I think
started
so,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah. Regardless, he hasn't played in a while. He played good, and they didn't want to push the envelope too far and have him make a mistake or test their luck so much. So, but yeah, Josh Jacobs in the running game was the story today because wow, that was the run game. Jair said as much post game. He was sitting back, drinking his Gatorade, talking about how it's going to be a short film session. And yeah, 40 minutes to 20 minutes times of possession. That's a lot of offensive film they got to go through.
Yeah. No, I think your point about the game plan that Matt LaFleur, and his coaching staff thought of, drew up, or whatever you want to call it. Again, none of this is possible if their success on the ground doesn't come at the start of the game.
Absolutely not.
That is where, as we talked about going into this game script, whatever you want to call it, um, it doesn't happen without the Packers getting on the board first, running the ball as much as they did, running down the throats as the Colts run defense, shoddy run defense as much as they did. Like that's where, as we'll get into talking about Malik Willis, as we'll get into the defense of it all too, because obviously if your defense is only playing 20 minutes in a game, chances are it's going to look better than not. um, but yeah, I think again the game plan doesn't meet execution if you don't do as well as the Packers did. And yes, only coming away with 60 points is kind of like it is a little like downside of it because it
Mm-hmm.
speaks to self-inflicted mistakes, whether it was on the offensive line. They had not even just a holding call on the Jacobs first, what should have been
His first
Josh
touchdown.
Jacobs, yeah, and then his own mistake on his which should have been his second touchdown.
Yep.
Um, there's a bunch of like ineligible receiver downfield,
Three
and
of them, three or four of them at least.
it feels like a very fickle penalty, but basically, like if they're gonna call it, it's still you still have to mention it.
Yep.
But again, just I think the reason why Malik Willis specifically and the offense looks so comfortable is because they got the ball first. They did everything that they could to
Yep.
keep it in their grasp, and sometimes it's just you just have to. It comes down to simple
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, they dictated the game from the start, and I think that's just what they needed to do. Right? We've seen, I guess, anecdotally in my head, excuse me, in my head, seen less and less of the Packers deferring in order to get the ball at the beginning of the second half. I feel like we've seen them at least. I think they started with it last week, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty certain that they chose to receive.
yeah.
Did they choose to receive this week? I wasn't. I missed
I
like
don't.
the actual
I had
kickoff.
to catch up on the game, obviously,
Yeah,
but
let me double check see if the box score
I
tells
know
me.
they started with it. I mean, that goes back to even last year when we were talking about the Packers being like 2-5 or 3-6 or whatever it was,
Yep.
and it's like you just kind of have to flip how you enter a game. It's stupid. Like we're fans. This is where we're like receive the ball because it makes your aggressive standpoint. I just my headphones just fell off my head by making gesticulating like that. Um, but sometimes it is just like just don't run through the motions. Like yeah, like let's defer. Let's just get the ball rolling. It's like no, let's do something with the ball. Let's get it rolling. We're the ones rolling the ball. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Regardless, they come out 2 weeks in a row, take the ball, get it rolling, and get it pounding on the ground. So shout out Josh Jacobs and the run game because my word, it was a special game for them today. Moving on, might as well talk about Malik Willis because he had just as big of an impact on this game as anybody else on offense. Uh, Malik Willis, 12 14, one touchdown, 122 yards. Really, really smart with the ball. We didn't see any like errant throws. We didn't see any questionable movements with the ball while he was running, like holding it out wide or anything. Just a really solid game. A perfectly game managed game from Malik Willis because he did exactly what he needed to do to be a quarterback in the system that is happening that was put into place this afternoon. And to his credit, he looked better as the game went along. Like we talked about how they put weren't going to throw outside a whole lot in this game because those are just dangerous throws, right? I think it was late in the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter, third down and like 6 or 7. Malik Willis rifles a pass to Dontavian Wicks, who jumps it at the apex of his leap and brings it down, nabs it first down. Like it was a really nice throw and catch to where only Malik Willis could throw it, or not only Malik Willis could throw it, where only Dontavian Wicks could catch it, and
Yeah.
it was either gonna be incomplete or a completed pass, and it was just a great throw. And then I think it was after that too, he throws that bomb to Romeo Dobbs, who mosses his cornerback. That was awesome. Malik Willis goes through and starts tapping his head like this. That was a funny little gif that was going around Twitter. But I mean, they let him loose in the second half a little bit to throw the ball, and it worked. A lot of his passes early on were like short in the flat to Tucker Craft or to whatever receiver was down there. But as the game went along, they gave him a couple chances to throw it, and he made the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that only threw 14 times, but when you're converting 12 of those passes, 8.7 yards per pass, like yes, a lot of it was after the catch in a lot of cases, but the Romeo Dobbs kind of jump ball, 500 ball, whatever you want to call it, was impressive. I thought the touchdown throw to Wicks was equally impressive considering what at that point in the drive. Like we talked about it a little bit when we're like, just don't put balls in the danger zone of when someone can make a beat on it. And you mentioned Kenny Moore. He could have he was
Yep.
the cornerback in question on that play. And if he had maybe been on like a little bit sharper or more reactive or anticipatory to the throw, that could have been a pick six.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't. And instead it was a pack six. That's what I'm calling it. Thank you very much. Um no, I think, and I only just thought about this as we have been talking about this. I think a very good point that I haven't seen a lot of Packers people talk about, and maybe they have, and I just haven't seen it, so I'm taking credit for it. I think as much as we were very aware, kindness of the fact that Malik Willis has had 3 starts in his NFL career, certainly has not lit them up. He didn't have his today was his first passing touchdown of his NFL career. I would say The factor that I did not give much thought to before this game, even before like 5 minutes ago, is Matt LaFleur has been through this before with Jordan Love. And I think he even said it somewhat recently. Maybe it was the contract extension time or whatever, but I remember him talking about it again recently. And he felt that if he had to go back and redo it, he would, and he wouldn't put so much pressure on Jordan Love to make big plays
Hmm.
when Aaron Rodgers was out and had COVID and all this stuff.
Right.
And it was middle of the week, your game plan is what your game plan is, and we, understood, even though that they lost at the time. And I wonder how much of that experience informed the way LaFleur and Adam Stenavich and a lot of that coaching staff approached this game. Maybe it didn't mean all that much in the long run because, we're talking about two different quarterbacks here. One
Right.
is a face of the franchise level quarterback, and one is someone that's still trying to make a name for himself in the NFL. But I think because of that, and again, it's very easy to just be like, run the ball, hold the ball as long as you can, dominate time of possession, like the easy things of like just football 101. That's how you brave through, your second string quarterback starting for your starter who's injured. But I just feel like I sincerely wonder, maybe we'll get some quotes about that in the coming days after the win, but I think maybe that helped inform Matt LaFleur to kind of direct the kind of game that he wanted to see. Truman show it.
Yeah. No. Totally get it. Totally get it. Because I agree with you too. Like you can't really put Malik Willis in the Jordan Love slot and expect him to play the same way. That's just irresponsible, probably. But
Yes.
uh, that's an interesting point to see. Like, I wonder if some beat report should ask that question and see what he.
If you're listening to this podcast, thank you for subscribing to Talk of the Tundra. But
Yeah.
yes, I would like to know that answer if it can be answered, because I think his quotes after the game of, I can pull this up actually, um, where he's giving a lot of praise to Malik Willis, and obviously so he just won his, I would assume his,
It was
if his
yeah.
stat lines look as bad as they did in his first three NFL starts, I
Yeah.
would imagine that this is his first NFL win.
I believe it is.
Here we go. Matt LaFleur on Malik Willis. This is courtesy of Matt Steenman of The Athletic. I don't think you guys can appreciate or even comprehend the task that Malik Willis dash. I mean, this guy got here 3 weeks ago, and for him to be able to go out there and command our offense, we had a lot of long calls. We had shifts, motions, a ton of different run schemes. Excuse me. There was a lot put on his plate, and for him to be able to go out there and do what he did today, I think that speaks volumes of who he is as a person and the work that he's put in. Just super proud of him. So I think part of that, I mean, if you just watch the game, there's a lot of like pistol action. It's a lot of movement. Jaden Reed was heavily in the backfield. Bo Melton gets an end around. Like there are things that, it has to work. The the old Matt LaFleur maxim that I know Paul Bradle, who's, been a guest on this podcast and has talked about a lot, like the unpredictability of the Packers offense. He likes
Right.
just, you don't know where the ball is going to go to within the wide receivers forecast, or who is moving behind the before the play starts, and how it, if it's going to go to them or hitches off the other move, like actions within the play.
Hmm.
So I think for that, all, like, it's not just about game managing or being hyper efficient on your throws. It's about knowing when to even just call the play and have everybody on the same page. Because I don't know about you, but looking elsewhere around the NFL today, there was a clip of the Denver Broncos offense with rookie quarterback Bo Nix
Yeah.
against the Steelers that looked horrible. Like the play clock is running down. He's going through his call sheet on his wristband, and you see like the camera angle is very clear. Their wide receivers or players in that huddle, they had no idea what the hell is going on as this play is about to be called.
Yeah,
And I think again,
you're
these
telling
things
me
we take
Kevin
for
James can't
granted.
call an efficient offense?
Kevin James cannot call an efficient offense for no, I don't know, Bo Nix or whatever. But I know it's part of the job. It's the easiest thing just to be like, yeah, you got to call plays. Like literally, as the quarterback, you have to call the plays and all that stuff. But again, to make it all work and kind of disguise things and just to be as overpowering as the Packers were in the first half offensively, despite lack of points. Um, I don't know. I think it just speaks to the whole gambit that LaFleur and company just try to do with Malik Willis under center.
Yeah, 1,000%, absolutely. Lafleur had some comments for or some comments about Malik Willis as well. Quote: "There was a lot put on his plate, and for him to be able to go out there and do what he did today, I think that speaks volumes of who he is as a person." He talked a lot. I'm sorry, unquote. He talked a lot post game about how he was just thankful that the teammates and everybody were so supportive of him, which we saw all week. Like Christian Watson had glowing words. Somebody who was not targeted today, I'm not mistaken. They said they had like 500 yards in practice of deep balls for Dobbs, which is funny because that pays off for one. Um, but yeah, like just seems like an outstanding locker room dude and just doing everything he can to be able to come in and get wins when he's able to, kind of thing. So yeah, shout out Malik Willis, and another shout to Malik Willis for handling a ball that had been freshly puked on by Josh Myers. That was very funny. Like
Yeah.
the like it's almost as
You've
fun.
heard of a fumble rooski. Here's a puka rooski,
Yeah,
you know.
there was
I'm not talking about Nakua.
stop.
What?
That was bad.
Thank you.
Um, it reminds me of Adrian Hauser when he picked on the mound, just out of nowhere, and then
Oh God,
that
that
one.
was horrifying.
Well, that's what Josh Myers did. Just
I know.
turn, just
Do you want to hear Malik Willis's QBR? I'm just seeing this on the Twitter sphere
go for
or
it.
X sphere. Sorry.
Go for it.
He had an 82.5 QBR. For frame of reference, Kyler Murray had a 98.3 QBR today in the Cardinals' 41-10 win over the Rams. And Justin Herbert had 88.1. These are just fun with numbers. That's my
Fun with
this
numbers with Jordan
section
Tresky.
of the pod.
But yeah, all in all, a good game by Malik Willis. Glad he's able to go out there and do it. Sets a good precedent for next week if he has to play again. But otherwise, if he doesn't have to play again next week and Jordan Love is back, just a good spot start for him. So all good that way.
It
Um,
was it would also come against the Titans too.
yep, revenge game against Mayo Mahomes, who is looking like maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL outside of Bryce Young. Sorry, Andrew
Or Bo Nix.
or Bo Nix. Yeah, the boneheaded mistakes, dude. Brian, we'll talk about this. You know what? We'll talk about it next week. But Brian Callahan hates like
Will
Will
Levis.
Levis. Yeah, it's not great. Um, but moving on.
Not my quarterback,
Not my quarterback.
according to Brian Callahan.
Um, last bit on the offense. Actually, two last bits on the offense. Shout out the line. They did well today for Josh Jacobs. We didn't mention that at all, but Malik Willis I think only takes one sack or none.
No,
Yeah,
none.
yeah, no sacks for Malik Willis, which is obviously ideal.
Yeah.
And then the holes were there all day for the running game. So nice job on that line. And then the actual last point is just the receivers and particularly Romeo Dobbs. Um, just really nice hands today. Good routes. They played well today. Obviously, they weren't featured a whole lot. Um, Romeo Dobbs leads the way with 3 catches for 62 yards. The longest being that 39-yard bomb late in the game. Dontavian Wicks goes 3 for 26 for a touchdown. Tucker Kraft goes 2 for 16. Jaden Reed 2 for 9. Luke Musgrave 1 for 6, and Marshawn Lloyd 1 for 3. So just a nice little all around game for the receivers, and just happy to see Romeo Dobbs making these big plays after we're getting annoyed at the catches he wasn't making last year and years prior. That's his first 2 years. He seems pretty sure hands right now, and I say that, and he'll have a disappointing drop next week. But all things considered, thus far this season, Romeo Dobbs a guy to be relied upon.
Shout out to Jaden Reed too, because he, as much as Josh Jacobs eventually was like the workhorse, Jaden Reed supplied a lot of fun stuff early
Juice.
on too.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
juice.
gave us some juice.
So, um, let's move on to the defense. They hold the Colts to 10 points. What? What?
I'm just laughing. We both like just had a very awkward pause of just juice.
Yep.
Say the word juice. Like David Schwimmer in that bad Ryan Murphy OJ series on FX a long time ago.
I haven't seen it.
Well, there's a scene where he literally just goes, juice? Juice. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
suppose
let's
that
talk
the
about the defense.
top of the defense, 10 points allowed, limiting Anthony Richardson to one touchdown, three interceptions. They get home once for a sack. That was Lucas Van Ness, I believe. No, who was it? My
It was your
apologies.
boy.
It was Devontae Wyatt. You're right. It was Devontae Wyatt. I got very excited about that. That he finished out his sack there. But yeah, 204 yards, one touchdown, and three interceptions for Anthony Richardson. Jonathan Taylor has a lot of big breaking runs today. Only 12 carries, but 103 yards, an average of 8.6 per carry. His longest was 29 yards. And in general, they just looked a lot better. They were swarming. Xavier McKinney gets a pick. Evan Williams gets a pick at the end of the game, and then Eric Wilson with some nice hands on a slant route
Oh my
in
God.
the early in the fourth quarter. I'm pretty sure, late in the third or in the third quarter, second half for sure.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
But Eric Wilson on a slant route on a critical third down. I think it was Michael Pittman against Eric Wilson, and Wilson undercuts his slant route and puts his hands up there and intercepts it, and it was awesome. Like it was great. It was good to see a linebacker catch the ball when it hits him in the hands. Sorry, I'll talk about that later. But regardless, shout out Eric Wilson. He had a wonderful game. He had that interception. He had um, the play where it was the Anthony Richardson pitch option, and he covered it perfectly, like the exact way
Yep.
you're supposed to defend that. Makes Anthony Richardson pitch it out to Trey Sermon, and then he moves to Trey Sermon and tackles him for a loss. I think he had a couple pressures too. Just all around great game for Eric Wilson, who finishes with, if I could find his name here, one tackle. I don't believe that, and then they only give him a pass deflection despite having the interception.
And an interception. It would be both. It would be both.
Yeah, regardless. But yeah, just a good game from him. I think he had more than one tackle. He was in on more plays than I think that was. So we'll see about the PFF grades when they come out. But regardless, great game from Eric Wilson. The veteran I think needed in that linebacker room right now.
Yeah, I thought there was. I mean, let's just be honest. When you're playing 20 minutes of football and you only give up 10 points, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, really
Pretty
good.
damn good. So, and really, like, as much I watched the game after it happened, so I had the benefit of knowing the Packers won. So the end of the game and them and the Colts scoring within the final 2 minutes was not as nerve wracking to me as it probably was in real time. However, Packers defense after last week and considering what the Colts did in their loss to Houston last week, I was obviously worried. I was worried about, well, if you could take away the run game and Jalen Hurts threw to whoever he wanted, they made a lot of plays after contact and all this stuff. I was not thrilled with how this game could have gone. A lot of questions I have, and I think in one hand, I'm both fearful of what Anthony Richardson can become because I think he has a ceiling that could be paradigm shifting or like level of not close. No one's ever Patrick Mahomes, but like I don't know his distant relative 2,000
The
years later.
the comparison they're making on broadcast was Cam Newton, and I think that's a more appropriate comparison given he's six
Mm,
five, 6'6", 250 pounds, has a cannon for an arm,
he's
and
250 pounds.
he's huge, dude. I mean,
It's just hard. I don't see a lot of Colts games. I'm a Packers fan,
he's
obviously.
6'4", 244, according to ESPN.
My
He's
God,
huge, dude.
Jesus. The one thing though, like again, I think part of my like if you had been listening to our kind of NFL preview pods on GSPN Premium, this is a good time to subscribe. But one of my points about the Colts is that just because they were the successful team last year, they were a team that, Gardner Minshew was the primary starter for, most of last year after Anthony Richardson got hurt. They were a good football team in spite of not having the rookie starter quarterback who could certainly do a lot of things. But I just thought for all the good that he can do, will do in the future, today was kind of representative of like where he is at. I don't like
Yeah,
he throws the ball really weird.
I mean
Did
that
you did you
he
see that?
yeah he has a interesting throwing motion for sure.
He
He
throws it
also
like it's a Nerf ball, which certainly like goes to the fact of him throwing off one foot, falling down, and like last week against the Texans in that incredible touchdown. But
mhm.
he doesn't know. It doesn't feel like he knows the touch on his throws. And I felt like a lot of the problems with the three picks that he had today, let's throw out the Hail Mary,
Outside of the Hail Mary.
is he's throwing like lofting it up. Like the Xavier McKinney pick, like I'm credit to
The
him.
McKinney pick was lofted. I think that's the only really bad one, frankly. Like the McKinney pick was thrown too far over the head. That's just that's just a bad throw. The Eric Wilson one is a great play by Eric Wilson. That's just all that was. And then the Hail Mary.
It it was possible. And I think even Greg Olson on the broadcast picked it up on it too, of just saying that was a pre-diagnosis behind the play. He's like, that is the route that I know that is going to work.
Oh,
And
for
when
sure. Well, it was
Eric
Michael Pittman
Wilson is,
against Eric Wilson.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to throw it to. And Eric Wilson's like, not today,
Yeah,
meme, whatever.
right.
Um,
Call an ambulance, but not for me.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I just was very, again, I think this is where you have trouble of all progress is not linear. And you can't forget the fact that this could essentially be,
It's only a six game.
yeah, it's only a six game. What the first half of last year for Jordan Love was could easily be representative for Anthony Richardson this first half. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
so I think with that in mind, to be able to corral him into making mistakes, I thought the pass rush, as much as it was just one sack, when you consider the volume of plays that they had to play, like
Yeah.
they did a lot of things to bother him, and it wasn't just mental mistakes or anything like that. I thought a lot of, as much as the Colts wide receivers
They had a
had,
lot of
there was a,
drops today. I was waiting to make that point. We're like 17 to 34 for Anthony
oh,
Richardson, but they had to have at least five drops. And
there
like
was one that was just incredibly egregious. I don't, I
it
could not even
was
name
it
it who it
was
was.
I think it was Mo Alley Cox on the fourth down. That or Michael Pitt no, not Michael Pittman or Adonai Mitchell. Yeah, it was Adonai Mitchell. On the curl run, I think on fourth down in the first half.
Oh
But
God.
there was also the one where um Adonai Mitchell is targeted on the sideline and Evan Williams is there. And if he
Yeah.
goes up to catch it, he's gonna get hit pretty darn hard, to put it lightly. And Adonai Mitchell goes, "Nope, I'm not going up to get that," which like
Yeah.
good business decision probably. It was right on the sideline. He probably gets shoved out regardless, but yeah, it's just a tough day for the receivers for sure. I think if the receivers bring down all of their passes as they're like the ones they should have caught and like hit them in the hands and dropped, this is an entirely different game, frankly. Like they as well as the Packers played and as well as they executed their game plan, there was a lot of mistakes on the Colts side. A lot of mistakes.
Yes.
So I'm giving the defense all the credit they deserve because they kept them to 10 points. You can't help if they drop the ball. It's not their fault. But there was like the Colts offense looked a lot better in the second half than it did in the first half. Like they were moving the ball. I think in the fourth quarter when they like decided like, hey, we got to get going here, particularly on like that touchdown drive and then the ensuing drive as they were trying to finish out the game. I think the touchdown drive they might have had like five first downs in a row. where they had multiple plays that went 15, 10, 15 yards. And that's
Yeah, they definitely
just,
got some chunk plays.
which like, that's fine, whatever, but it wasn't like that was what they were purposely allowing as like a defense, you know? I'm trying to
No,
see.
like the probably the most impressive one was really that fourth down. Anthony Richardson, scrambles to
Yeah.
get a first down,
Mm-hmm.
sets up the score for them. But yeah, like that drive, that was honestly the drive that they trusted him fully.
Right.
It felt like it wasn't like Jonathan Taylor was having some good runs, but 12 carries for 103 yards. He wasn't like a designed part of the offense, and maybe that was just in part because of the game was slipping by them, kind of thing.
Yep.
But it felt like, okay, we have to go for it all, kind of thing. And maybe that's the more room for Anthony Richardson to proverbially run. That's where he's like at his best, where there
Right.
is no like fitting him into this game plan kind of thing.
Uh-huh. The it was their second possession out of the half. They had a play for 11 yards, 16, 22 for three first downs in a row. And then they had a few on their touchdown drive where it was um, first and 10, second and 8, first and 10, second and 10, and then first and goal. Like they they had a lot of plays that were going for some big chunk yards in the second half. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think he'll be good. Anthony Richardson, talk about Anthony Richardson. Just he had a lot of mistakes, and so did the receivers, and that's just a tough way to go about a game the entire way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about Eric Wilson. Let's give a talk to Xavier McKinney. He also has a really good game. Gets another interception for his second interception in 2 games. Uh, like we just had mentioned earlier on a lofted pass. I don't know about you, dude. These first two games, Xavier McKinney has an opportunity to rise to like Charles Woodson level star for the Packers in that role, where they just get a dynamic playmaker and at an all pro level to be there and just make the costly mistakes by quarterbacks way more costly and turn the tide of games. Because I mean, how like it's hard to say like how often do you see Darnell Savage or Haha Clinton Dix or Rudy Ford or not Rudy Ford but any of the other bad safeties the Packers have employed over the years make those plays where they're in the right place to take advantage of an overthrow or take advantage
Yeah.
of a bad throw. And it's not many. And Xavier McKinney gets a turnover today, and it's just I think the defense is just different with him back at the helm at the free safety position. And Javon Bullard had a good game today. He was getting a couple tackles, a couple hits, and whatnot. But golly, talk about Xavier McKinney.
No, I agree with you. I think there is a level of having him as be this last line of defense that can just roam sideline to sideline. That's incredibly reassuring considering the quality of safeties the Packers just had last year. I think the biggest thing is like it's not just making the plays, but like just not giving up like over the top plays. A lot of like what happened in the Eagles game, it was stuff that happened after the ball was caught. It's this AJ Brown, right? The touchdown like to start the second half last week.
Yep,
There were plays like over the top that were happening, but it wasn't like last year. Like if I doubt, I mean, I would hope not that we see a play like the one in the divisional game against 49ers where Darrell Savage just gives up that touchdown to Kittle, I think it was
I believe
in
so.
the fourth. And it was like, yeah, you could see a mile of like where that was coming or going, I should say, and he just didn't have a chance. Like Xavier McKinney is too good, too polished, and too like wide ranging. That's not the right way to phrase how good he is, but just like all around safety he is. There we go. That's a better way to say it. Of be able to impact plays and just to having like this galvanizing like it when you know that you have someone like that back there, it just makes your job easier. Like maybe it makes you willing to take more risks or how you even game plan for certain opponents. That's where like again, the Colts wide receiver cast compared to the Eagles is a significant step down.
Significant drop off.
So yeah, you're not tested as much in that way, but you know, if you have a quarterback that can get you the ball in the right spots, that's where the damage can be done. Um, but yeah, I just thought again when that pick happened, I was like, yeah, that's there we go. It it's the second time that happened this year. I don't think it will be the last. I think it's gonna be really nice having someone that can just be this sideline to sideline force that the
Mm-hmm.
Packers just desperately needed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A little bit on the Kenny Clark and the rest of the D line. Thought they played very well today. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor runs were outside. That's not a shot at anybody else, but that's just where they went. Kenny Clark forced a couple of pressures, especially a throwaway at one point. Devontae Wyatt gets home. Lucas Van Ness had a great read on a read option where Anthony Richardson should have taken the ball and ran for a good while, and instead gives it to Jonathan Taylor, lets him keep it, and Lucas Van Ness stuffs him for a loss of like 3 or 4. And so they just did what they were supposed to. Like this Colts team is not a good team. They just don't have the talent level the Packers do, frankly. And they did what they were supposed to. They won the game, and held one of the more dynamic QBs that I think is going to be in the league for the next couple of years to 200 yards through the air and a few on the ground. But then Jonathan Taylor only getting 100 yards. I know it's quote unquote only, but 12 carries for 100 yards, and he wasn't in there to end the game. I'm not too sad about that. Like I'll live with it, frankly. Shane Steichen not having Jonathan Taylor at the end of the game, mind-boggling decision. Pam Oliver said that they didn't have anything from the sideline, that he was like hurt or there was like on a restriction or anything. It was just he wasn't in, and I just don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, he was the most consistent weapon that they had,
He was
clearly.
their offense.
He was their offense. He was even making plays in some. There was one bad drop that he had, and maybe that was
That was the
something
fourth
that,
down in like the first or second quarter.
yeah. But yeah, still two catches for 32 yards on 4 targets, plus weight on the ground. I just think maybe, you know, I don't think they had an option A, B, C once the Packers were up 10-0, and now you're looking like it was going into halftime. I would love to see the time of possession splits like half by half because I don't think it was much in the first half at all.
No, not much at all. Wish I could find any comments on Shane Steichen talking about Jonathan Taylor, but I seem to not be able to find one. So we'll just have to find that later, I suppose. But yeah, linebackers. Last week, Matt LaFleur said that Ezra Cooper is going to should be expecting to get more snaps. He plays less snaps this week. Um, the linebacker room: Quay Walker 56 snaps, Isaiah McDuffie 50, Eric Wilson 8, Ezra Cooper 7. This is like where we get a little negative. Quay Walker's got to figure it out. He he just isn't playing well, and I'm not able. I don't have the knowledge to give you a exact scheme reason as to what Quay Walker is doing wrong, but he gets lost so easily on a lot of runs. Like it feels like he over indexes a running back's first move into a hole and then dives into it versus waiting and being patient to see where he goes. Because it happened a lot last week with Saquon. It happened a lot this week with Jonathan Taylor. And I think Ty made the point in the Discord where Kenny Clark beat Quay Walker to Anthony Richardson on the angle, on that fourth down play where Anthony Richardson reaches the ball across the line for a first down on the touchdown drive that they had. Like Quay Walker, your entire purpose is like speed and tackling in space. Like he just it was just a bad game. And then on the last Colts drive, as they're driving, it hits them right in the hands, right
Just
in the
like
hands.
Atlanta last Week 2 last
Week
year.
two last year, hits him right in the hands, goes through his hands, hits him in the helmet, falls incomplete. Or no, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't. Alec Pierce catches it for
Yeah.
a first down. My apologies, but it's just like, oh my word, man,
I will
he's
say
just
the obvious rebuttal is he has shown up on the injury report. I think he even showed up on the injury report this week. He has been affected by his groin injury. I wonder if that is just he's not pairing what he can't do with what he is still able to do physically.
maybe like that's a pretty big benefit of the doubt.
It is. Oh yeah,
Like,
that's a big if.
and it does his groin didn't hinder him from jumping real high in the air to be able to get that ball, have it go through his
Man
hands and
getting
hit him in
hit
the
by
helmet.
football.
But if his groin was bothering him, he wouldn't have been able to make that jump. Like, it was an athletic jump. He was full up there, hands above his head, full extension, and he just missed it. And like, I know they're linebackers; if they can catch, they play receiver. But it's just it's just frustrating. And Edgerrin Cooper, I thought played well today in the couple snaps that I did see him there. He made a couple tackles, but like, Eric Wilson was an efficient 8 snaps, one tackle, has the interception, and then he forced the fumble on, I believe it was Jonathan Taylor, that then the Colts punched out of bounds, which you can't do. They didn't call that either. But like,
Yeah.
that's an efficient couple of snaps. Why don't they play him more? I know Quay's the green dot, and he's a former first round,
He was a first rounder.
yeah, first round pick 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like, he's, I'm not gonna say owed that green dot or owed that starting spot, but he's got to get it together because they need him to be as good as he can be. And Ty made another good point in the Discord earlier that Quay doesn't hit; he gets hit a lot, and that his most memorable hits are on coaches. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not an that's not a wrong opinion. And so,
Um it's the rules from Dodgeball. There
I
are five
guess,
rules. The 5 Ds.
yep.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and
I
dodge.
was wondering if you're gonna be able to get there.
I was looking at it, but I just said it very terribly.
You looked him up.
Yeah, I had to.
You had to look him up. You don't know the
That movie
five.
came out 20 years ago.
You were more cognizant than I was when that movie came out.
No, no.
Dodge, duck, dip,
Even though I did
dive,
recently
and
watch it.
dodge. Shout out Patches O'Houlihan, the real one. Um, but yeah, Quay Walker,
Real one.
Patches O'Houlihan, yes, a real one.
I know it's just funny. I just yeah. No, I do think that will be Quay's play will be monitoring or Quay's play will be worthy monitoring um moving forward, and maybe too like with Edgerrin Cooper. Part of it is too he was not around for much of training camp because of
Yep,
injury too. So we knew that going into the start of the season that what appeared to be the linebacker room was very much in question in terms of just like durability,
right.
but how that changes over hopefully when they get healthy over the course of the season, which feels like an oxymoron. um, yeah, I just think it's an evolving sitch.
Yeah, most likely, most likely. Last two players talk about Braden Narvison.
No,
He
no.
goes, excuse me, 3 of 4 from for field goals. Misses a 45-yard field goal, the same distance he missed from last week. Does make a 46-yard field goal though. Hits his extra point. I'm not happy. I'm not sad. Like, it. I'd like him to keep.
I would have cut that clip of "I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm Numac,"
That's
written
right.
by Numac. That's your title of your autobiography.
Like, there was, we talked about in the Discord during the game. There's something to Braden Narvison's kicks that I rarely feel like nervous about them because they always just like hit the center of the goalposts when they're made, right? Like the one he missed today was a bit right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But even then, it wasn't like horrendous. It wasn't like super bad far right outside. Unless I'm misremembering. You're looking at me like I'm wrong.
No, I'm just letting you I'm letting you say what you're saying because we're really getting into it's continuing the Anders Carlson
Right.
conversation of how do these kicks look?
It matters.
I know, but it was just funny how you started this because it's like I don't feel like that je ne sais quoi
I don't
with
feel a pit in my stomach when Braden Narvison kicks the ball, as opposed to when Anders does, and he kicks it, and it's got a homing beacon on the fucking upright. Like I don't feel like that every time he kicks it. If it's gonna go in, it's probably gonna go in. I apologize for my French. Sorry, Ty, but it
I
was
apologize for my friends je ne sais quoi.
God. But like he's a rookie. Just keep like getting better, right? If he can nail down the 45-yard field goal exactly, he'll be good. I'd like
I
to
have a
see him kick
question.
before you ask. I'd like to see him
Sorry.
kick one from 50 plus. I really want to see what his leg looks like. We haven't seen that yet, and I want them to be in a position in a game soon where that kick doesn't matter critically, just to see what his leg looks like. Like I don't want him to be kicking a 50-yard field goal at the end of a game to win it, right? As his first one. That
No,
that that
no.
would give me heart palpitations. But as soon as he's able to like punt get one in from 55, I'll be a lot more confident in him as a kicker. We just haven't seen them. It's been 2 games. We haven't seen them in a situation where they need him to hit from 50 plus.
My question would be to um pick up on the thing that you started with this. You say you don't feel this pit in your stomach. You don't feel you're very just kind of even keel would that be the
Yeah,
right way of
yeah.
describe it? Do you think that you have lowered expectations for Braden Narvison
I don't think so.
compared to Anders Carlson?
No, I don't think so. I just want him to make the
Okay.
kicks.
Because I was just going to ask, I wonder if the fact that he's an undrafted kicker versus Anders Carlson will always carry the baggage of
Being a
the
fifth round
Packers
pick. Yeah,
selected him. You know what I mean?
yeah. No,
It's a very, I feel like it's a very arbitrary way of looking at it because obviously just that attachment to it, it, it feels a little loaded.
yeah,
But I don't know. Like again, this is just to go back to an evolving situation. He looks fine.
yeah.
I don't know if it's this is the start of a career where he's Mason Crosby-esque and he becomes the franchise leader in points or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or he eventually evolves into being a very like top level NFL kicker, but it's a good starting point. Obviously, you're leaving things on the board,
I'd say.
literally. Um, but you know, he's had a kick on different surfaces, and it's just a matter of finding that consistency and comfortability, especially in the big moments. Because as much as you want to say last week was a test, it's his first NFL game, and the whirlwind of getting cut, landing with the Packers, and all that stuff. It's going to be different when you're literally kicking for the game, and who knows the distance. What does that look like?
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah. No.
uh,
I mean, I get it. I think as the season goes along, our opinion of him will form, right?
yeah,
If he makes all of his extra points, he's good in my book. Like unless he starts missing gimmies from inside the 30, then we'll have a problem. But
yeah,
45 for a rookie kicker, like I don't think there's a whole lot of development in that. Like I think you can get stronger in your leg and your form can get a little better. But I said this, we talked about Anders in the first place. I'm of the opinion that either kickers either have it or don't. And
yeah,
there's not a whole lot of development that can really get them to being um an awesome kicker. Like if you start off as a bad kicker, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do to get to being a great kicker. And
yeah,
if he's if he can just nail down the extra points that he's already been doing, and if he can keep hitting from inside of 40 like he's been doing, and just make a good percentage of any of them 45 plus, right? He'll be fine. But like
yeah.
I think in a situation where they're kicking from 45, 50, there's a good chance Matt LaFleur also just kind of wants to go for it because that's just who Matt LaFleur is as a coach.
That's what I was gonna say.
So no, I think I don't have any sort of different expectations of for him than I do with Anders. I just think that so far his kicks have looked a lot better than what I remember of Anders looking, even earlier in the season. So yeah, there's that. Last player, Daniel Whalen, had a wonderful day kicking the ball away. Had 3 punts, 139 yards, all three inside the 20. Just our second favorite Irishman, Jordan.
That is true.
That is true. So
He's top two, and he's two.
we'll see if dear friend Adam McGee listens to the pod. I can almost
I don't think
guarantee
so.
he will not. Um, but yeah, any other players you want to touch on, Jordan?
Oh, looking
I will
over.
say I think the Evan Williams people asking him to play isn't going to be quieted after his Hail Mary interception and that one play on
No.
Adonai Mitchell, which I think is a little aggressive. I talked about it at length in the Discord, just that he's the second, or rather third safety, and McKinney and Bullard have been playing very well. I just don't know what the role for Evan Williams is at this point, but that's that's neither here nor there.
I'm looking through my notes. No one else really stands out. I think we kind of got all. I mean, another shout out to the offensive line. I think again, it's a team effort. If you're getting 263 rush yards, um, and this is coming after a year where early injuries included, both offensive line and running back room. This is not a good running offense. It was a lot on Jordan Love's shoulders to make this offense move, but I think you know for all the hand wringing of what could the offensive evolve into, like with the starting five, it's pretty set and it's pretty dang good. You could even probably include six if you include like the rotations, but yeah, today was superb from them outside of niggling penalties that were, you know,
Yep,
touchdown killers.
yep. So, all right, folks, that does it. Packers win 16-10 over the Indianapolis Colts. We'll be back in your podcast feeds later this week for a preview of the Packers game against the Tennessee Titans, of which I already have notes prepared for because preparing for our preview, I definitely didn't prepare for the Titans for this week. And alas. So, all right, folks, thank you for listening. Go check out gspn.info to subscribe to the premium Substack page, where if you are listening to this, Jordan has published under the show notes, rather the show notes, the article that this post is on, a rundown of the game. So if you want to read that awesome premium article, $8 a month at gspn.substack.com or gspn.info. We appreciate your subscriptions as we continue to make content and do fun things like GSPN After Darks on the Substack, where I believe it was Andrew, Adam, and Jordan last week talked about the bands they wanted to reunite the most or to go on tour again in light of the Oasis uh, reunion tour and the Gallagher brothers coming back out of a hiatus to perform. So, uh, mine, for those who want to know, was Led Zeppelin. If I could see Led Zeppelin
Mm.
come back in their totality, obviously not possible given deaths and everything, but that'd be the show I'd want to see because that sounds pretty freaking cool. So let us know if you like all the content by liking, subscribing, everything like that. Subscribing to Substack, as I had mentioned 3 times now. So Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Check out Hero Step and Win in Six on the Bucks feed. Check out Adam and Andrew talking Brewers on Cruising for a Bruising through as they come up to the push for their playoffs. I think they took 2 or 3 from the Diamondbacks this weekend, so they'll have their recap coming out soon as you're listening to this. And then obviously make time for this all things pop culture and movies. Where they just released a new episode uh, titled "Checking In on Twisters, Trap, and Rebel Ridge," plus an on-the-ground reaction from Venice, as Adam was there for the Venice Movie Festival or Film Festival. My apologies. So go check it out. GSPN info. You got it all. It was a big old rundown for everything GSPN. So thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.